Welcome to Lead for Good, a podcast for nonprofit leaders of all titles and all experience levels. This is a show where the audience will meet and get to know top nonprofit leaders. Together, we will take a deep dive into nonprofit leadership, endeavoring to uncover and unpack the most important characteristics, traits, strategies, and actions of successful nonprofit leaders. Through this journey together, we desire to help you, the nonprofit leader, grow your knowledge and capabilities to lead for good. We want you to achieve your full potential as leaders in the sector. So, welcome to the conversation. We're glad you joined us today. Without further delay, let's join our host, Chris Looney, as he interviews yet another extraordinary leader who is truly leading for good. Enjoy the show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Lead for Good, the podcast where we explore leadership, impact, and the people behind the missions that are changing lives and communities. Today's conversation is an important one. We're talking about something every nonprofit leader is wrestling with right now: how to build real loyalty inside an organization in a way that develops strong leaders, reduces turnover, and ultimately drives greater mission outcomes. And I'm really glad to welcome today's guest. Welcome to the show, Edward. We're so glad to have you on with us.
It's an absolute pleasure, Chris. I appreciate it. It's fantastic to be actually just in general being a part of Fulcrum and the learning and networking as leaders that it provides. So this is it's a tremendous pleasure for me.
Yeah, well, the feeling is mutual, and I'm so excited when I meet leaders who are so engaged in their own development, who seek wisdom and guidance and advice. And we were just having a conversation about some learning that you did with for-profit leaders, and I think it's just so wonderful that there's always things to learn if you're open to it and willing to experience it. And it's been great to have you a part of so many Fulcrum meetings, and looking forward to continuing that. And today we get the chance to dive into a particular topic. But before we do that, I think it's important that we learn a little bit more about Edward Amey and kind of hear about from you your leadership journey. So if you don't mind, just share a bit about maybe your current role
Okay.
and the work you're leading.
Sure. Actually, I say to people, I have the privilege of being the CEO of J. Nolan Community Services, which we've kind of expanded it. I'm starting to refer to it as the J. Nolan family of companies. We've got three companies now serving different needs, and we're in conversation with acquiring another subsidiary. So, and the purpose of that is just to be able to meet needs, where they are within the context of, operating in California and all the business rules that go with not only serving, but, being an employer and the environments that you're in. But we get to basically, our overall purpose really is to support folks with autism and other neurodiversity to live fulfilling lives, as embraced, included, and empowered members of the community. And one of my personal philosophies and why I feel like it's such a privilege to be here is that I don't believe a community is whole or healthy until everyone has the opportunity to contribute. And that doesn't mean everybody will, right? People will self-select out for whatever reason, and we will miss out. But we miss out even more when we provide barriers, when we push people to the margins. And in any category you want to carve people up into, we got all kinds of different ways we separate ourselves. But the reality is, we need each other. I can't bring the contribution that you bring, Chris, and a gentleman that we're supporting and sponsoring that drives a race car, first driver with autism. I can't do what he does, flat out, period, can't do it. And we'd miss out if we kept pushing to the margins. And there are a lot of trailblazers out there, both out in front, like a race car driver, but behind the scenes, that drive this idea that commitment to community benefits everybody. If I've got the time and, it's a tall enough building and people, you get in the elevator, you start chatting and someone says, well, what do you do? If I feel like I want to pull that person towards me, if there's that potential for conversation, I'll usually answer with, oh, I work for a nonprofit. I help make your community better. And then I just drop it right there. I just leave it and go, are we going to have this dialogue? I'm like, what do you mean? Glad you asked, Sometimes you
Right.
just get the nod and go, "Oh, cool," you know, so you knew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but here at J. Nolan, we provide everything we do is in community, and we have a few, we have offices throughout the state, about 11 of them now. That's just support. That's just administration, finance, those kinds of things. Everything we do is out where people live, work, and play, and it's individualized. And that's been the cutting edge and driver of J. Nolan for the last 50 years. We actually celebrated 50 years in 2025, and we're still riding that high, kind of feeling good about it as we roll into 2026. But that's the challenge is how do you leave the planet a little bit better than that you were here? And this is what I get to do.
You do. You have the privilege, yeah, of being a leader there. And you've been a leader for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit about how you became the leader you are today?
Sure. I can't tell you that I, saw myself that way for a good portion of my life, like that I would lead others. And so it took me a while to kind of figure out what that even means.
Okay.
I do believe people are born with an innate desire to give in that way, right? Because leadership is giving. It's without a doubt, everyone must understand is leadership is not something you take, it's something you give. And I had a learning disability growing up, and it was a challenge, and I was not the easiest kid to have in your class. And and I tested a lot of teachers. My mother's her spot in heaven is assured. She is a saint. Um, but
Good.
I had a real defining moment as a young person, and saw the difference in leadership. So my fifth grade teacher, I kid you not, I'm about to say something that's probably going to make everybody gasp because no teacher should ever say this to a child. But my fifth grade teacher had kind of reached her limit with me, I guess, and looked me in my face, little fifth grader, and said, "You are a moron and you will never amount to anything." Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because up to that point, all I ever did was get in trouble, talk too
Sure.
much, that
Yeah.
whole thing. Um, and I never told anybody that till much, much later in life. Never told my mom because I think my
Sure.
mom might have gone down and burned the school down.
Yeah.
She's very passionate about her,
Yeah. Yeah.
defending her children.
Of course,
Um,
Mama Bear.
yeah, oh yeah. Um, but that's, that if that's where the story and you're like, oh yeah, that's how that kid ended up in jail. No. But the very next year, the very next year, I met my very first impressive leader, and that was my sixth grade teacher. She looked at everything, my work and everything, all the kids that she had, and she had a meeting to start the school year off with my mom and I. She looked me square in the eye and she said, "I'm looking at all this, and this is not your best. I know it's not. And you and I are going to find out what your best is." And she laid out a plan for how that was going to happen. And my mom's sitting there going, "Oh yeah," you know. And and one of the things she said to me was, for every minute of the class that you take away, doing whatever you do, you'll give to me at recess and lunch. Telling a sixth grade teacher, or sorry, a sixth grade student with attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity that I was gonna have to sit a little extra longer, why you might just kill me now.
Yeah.
But it was more than just that. It was she paid attention. She recognized ways into each kid, not just me, but her whole classroom. She was without a doubt one of the greatest teachers I've ever met. And, she moved me to a spot, where I could be more engaged with the classroom and not with my friends, doing that thing. She even did this, which I thought was amazing. As we came in from recess or something like that, she actually did a guided meditation with this class. Sixth grade teachers.
Yeah.
Nobody did that back then, but sixth grade students,
Right.
this teacher did that. And that settled me in a way where I didn't have that half an hour of still spinning or whatever.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I've often told this story, and I do it in the third person when I kind of present in different arenas. But what happened was that when my last report card came, and for my sixth grade year, my mom opened it up. She burst into tears. She had spent from my kindergarten to this point never seeing an A. I had all A's and a B plus.
Hmm.
And here's the funny part. I was like, dang it, got a B plus. Right. Up
Right.
to that point, I just figured I was not a smart person. This was not my game.
Yeah.
And she raced down to the middle school where I was going after that. And she showed my scores and my report card and all things for a reason, by the way, to this the principal and said, "You need to put him in the program, I forget what they call him, but that's going to challenge him, and he's going to be really. I want it hard because we're going to lose him if I don't, because he thinks he can do this, and I know he can do this, but he didn't think he could before. Guy's retiring the next year, and he goes, sure, whatever. He
Yeah.
enrolls me in whatever that program was, and from that point on, I got teachers who were about education. I got teachers who were leaders. I got information. I
Mm.
realized I could do something. I had to learn how to do it differently, but I could do it. And that's honestly the way I lead. And
Yeah.
from that point forward, I am I'm an eternal optimist now, because I'm like, if I can do it, there's a way. I'll find a person that can do it. If we can't do it, we'll find a person that can do it. Or we just got to dig deeper, or it's in you. I know it's in you. You just tell me what you need and we'll get there. And I'm a big proponent of investing in my leadership team, because it's a team thing. If you're a leader, you better be looking around that you have a team. If you think it's just you, then you're not a leader. You lead groups, you lead teams, you don't lead yourself.
Very good. No, that's wonderful. Well, this is a great segue into the heart of our conversation. And we're kind of looking at this topic of loyalty as a leadership strategy. And
Mhm.
I'd love to ask where this idea of building loyalty within a team fits into your philosophy of leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. It's back to what I said. Leadership is giving, and it's a privilege to get to do that. So, what you're wanting to build, what I want to build is a loyalty to the mission, right? And you do that by investing in people, right? And I believe, there's skills I have and skills I don't have, right? And I always build around me the ones I don't have. I find the people that have it. But one of the skills I believe I have, and that is seeing talent. And when I see it in somebody, I'm going to invest in it. I'm going to bring it out. And there's no greater joy than to see somebody realize and grasp a hold of, that's mine. I can do that. Because I know what it feels like. And so I
Yeah.
love seeing that joy. And that's where the loyalty comes in, respect, dignity, and investment, and honesty, right? It's not mean to give someone feedback. Hey, you're off there. Let's get this back on track. Or I see where you're going with that. That's awesome. However, this is, here's our metric. This is what we said is our mission. This is right. So it's not about, oh, you're not doing it. It's like, hey, we already agreed, right? Here was the metric. Let's hit that. What do you need? I often ask that question. And in fact, if I leave a meeting with one of my team members and I haven't asked that question, I'm like, I got too busy in the other things. But so I usually try to lead with it. And many of my team members will start the meetings with, I don't need anything right now. I just want to give you this information. I'm like, okay, because they know I'm going to ask, what do you need from me? What can I get you? Is either me or what I can bring to the table. And when you invest in people and you let them know your success is our success, that's what builds that loyalty. And it's all the way out. I don't do an up down. I like center out. It's all the way out at the edge of what, the what we do. We've got folks out in community that are supporting individuals with neurodiversity to live their best life. And I want to know from them, what do they need from me? And so I set those mechanisms up. I have a lot of I do videos, I do town halls. Live town halls can be very humbling, by the way, and it
I
should be.
bet.
But I also set up and I have lunches in the different regions. I will just set up lunch with the CEO. People come in and we just talk about whatever they want to talk about. We don't have to talk about work. Talk about something else. And we just get to interact. And I learn so much about the organization, about the people committed to the mission that informs how I make decisions, what needs to come back into the leadership team and say, hey, there's a thing we need to solve because out here at the front line of what we say we want to do, we're missing, and here's why. I've changed benefits packages because of conversations with frontline workers. I tell this quick story. It blew my mind. I was having one of my lunches out in what's called a little town called Ridgecrest, which is way out in the Mojave Desert. And this one of my employees, she was invited and chose. First, I was honored. She chose her last day before going on maternity leave was she says, yes, I'll attend that lunch. So I got her last day, which was pretty awesome before she got, but she begins to explain to me, if going to have a child here in Ridgecrest, you are automatically scheduled for inducing. There's no natural birth. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah,
Right.
because the closest hospital for most of people is, Kaiser is in Bakersfield. It's 2 hours away. And they don't want to be given birth on the side of the road somewhere between Bakersfield and Ridgecrest. So they
Right.
schedule it. And I'm like, wow, man, I mean, I get it. It's kind of clinical. I mean, I'm sure people would like to do life the way life was designed. So that caused me to go back to my benefits brokers and say, is there anything we can do about that? And we're now exploring another path where that gives me more flexibility to contract in regions. So I can say, well, there's an OBGYN there that's got, benefits at the hospital. Can't we, let's build something with that medical group and people can do their own thing there. So, it's about listening. Loyalty is about listening. And which is funny because we're right now talking and I do a lot of that talking, but I can't learn what I need to learn to develop my people and build that loyalty if I'm not listening to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was my turn to listen and learn. Your turn to share your expertise. Um, and I get it. In your mind, why do you believe loyalty is such a critical factor in developing leaders internally?
Um, I think because it's why it's so important, I think, is loyalty touches a lot of things, right? If you're being diligent about what is engaging to the job and to the mission and to the company, and you're focused on that with people, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel like they matter, especially in an environment where, a lot of times in nonprofit, in our world, um, they feel invisible because it's like whatever's left over, nonprofit
Right.
gets, whatever the social services gets that. We got to spend money on these things. So it's flipping that script and saying, despite the environment we're in, I want you to know you matter, and that what they pay us is not a reflection of how much you matter. But
Yeah.
also that as you're investing in someone individually and then showing them how their success is success in the mission, right? They're growing and they're like, wow, this is for me. This is my role. And so you have a lot of things that happen. You see a drop in turnover, and turnover is just a killer, especially in nonprofit. In fact, in the space that we're in, the national average is between 43 and 50%. I mean, talk about tapping your recruiting team with an impossible mission, right? Um,
Keeps
but
HR
also,
busy.
yeah, right. But what it translates to is a terrible experience for those that we support because it's relationship based, right? It's an intimate thing to provide support services to help someone learn life skills, hold a job, whatever it might be in relationships, right? How do I date, right? That's intimate, that's real, and that takes trust, and that's over time. So if I can affect that, if I can drop that turnover rate, that means the relationships are lasting longer. That means the outcomes for people are better.
Yeah.
And so we've really focused on that in this way. And so, our in the last 5 years, actually, our highest turnover rate was 23%, half the national average, because it matters, and I focus a lot on it, and it takes listening. And so people are loyal to the mission when they feel that this organization that has this mission is loyal to them. Like, I matter, you hear me. I do employee satisfaction survey. I collect that all up, and I personally prepare a report back and saying, this is what you said. This is what we got from you. Here's what we're working on. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can't. Like there's a thing, and I'm like, absolutely want you to know we didn't ignore that. Here's what it means, and put that back out every year. And I think that, the idea of building loyalty is, and I'll tell you one of I think a mistake that can be made around the issue of loyalty is, and leaders can fall into this trap, is that they're loyal to you. That's a side benefit. That's cool if that happens, but it's not about you. It's about them. Loyalty is to the mission. It's to the shared values and the shared goals. Obviously, the more aligned you are in those things, right? You're there doing it together, then that loyalty becomes about each other, right? I'm loyal to you. I'm going to do everything I can for you to be the best, fill in the blank, DSP, supervisor, employment coach, chief program officer, whatever it might be. My goal is for you to have what you have what you need to be the best one of those things. And when you feel like
Mm,
that's happened, sure, there's a sense of loyalty, but it's to us, not a
I love
not a
that.
not a me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a major difference because I think most leaders, myself included, tend to focus on that relationship with that individual as me and them, or me
Hmm.
and that person, and they're gonna follow me. They're going to do what I ask them to do. They're not going to do this because whatever it is, but it's not necessarily connected to the organization or the mission. It's falsely a one-on-one, and I guess that's dangerous too. You want, especially in the nonprofit world, you want them to feel that ownership and connection and loyalty to the organization.
Yeah. And the values, right? Because I would want, honestly, the loyalty is such that if if they see the compass sort of veering off from our values, that they'd be like, whoa, hold up, right? Because they're
Yeah.
loyal to what we've all said we believe in, which can happen to an organization. And I think that the core of that loyalty and building leaders is trust, right? It's the heart of everything. And I think that one of the greatest demonstrations of that is good, honest dialogue, right? My executive team here, when we're it's like a Knights of the Round Table kind of thing, if I could try to liken it. When we're at the table together, everybody's equal. So if there's like, but well, hold up, Edward, I don't understand what you just said, or I'm a little concerned. Do you mean this or this? And require that be taken care of before we move on to the next thing. And whether it's the CFO or the chief program officer at the table, right? That we're making sure that we're all clear and that we're honest with one another, and that we're like, all right, I'm with you, let's do this, right? Once we're like, hey, once we're doing it, we're all in. And my success is your success. So if something is needed by the chief quality officer, right? Hey, that's a big important role here. Chief program's going, what do you need from me? And it's that loyalty to the values that the organization stands for. Um, because somebody asked me one time, well, why? What made you come to Jay Nolan? I was leading another organization in this same space, some bit of different programs, and I was really happy doing that. It's to leave an organization as a leader is a big deal. And I don't take it lightly. And people laugh when I say, well, the first thing that got my attention, I almost didn't take the call because I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm doing what I want to do, was the logo. And they're like, what? I'm like, I know, it seems weird, but I saw it and I'm like, if that organization is about what that logo means to me, oh, this is going to be awesome. And you notice it's two people who sit side by side. There's no captain of the ship, right? It's a boat with two people sitting side by side, and each one has an oar, which means if you're not in sync, you're just going around in circles, right? We
Yeah.
have to, it talks about in that communication, teamwork, journey, all in one logo. And that is what we stand for. And what I've really pushed forward with my team, I'm like, let's live up to that. And everybody in
Yeah.
my team is like, yes, yes, absolutely. That's what we want to be.
All right. I'm a believer. So let's talk tactically about what we need to do
Mhm.
now to build genuine loyalty within our teams. What are those most important things leaders can do?
I think first and foremost, we mentioned is listen. Um, but you can't listen if they're quiet, right? If they're not talking to you. So you've got to actively seek it out. You've got to say, I need your feedback. I need your eyes on this. I need your opinion. And when they give it, don't argue with it right away. Even if you think it's the wrongest thing you've ever heard, you say, hey, thanks for that feedback. I wasn't thinking about it that way. Let me mull that over. Let me marinate on that one. I use that one a lot. Let me marinate on that one and see what it does to my thinking, which for me, actually, I do need to do that, and it affects that. But you've got to invite it, and then you got to welcome it. That's step one. And I have, you know, you can learn from mentors and mistakes. Those are your only two ways of learning. And you can decide which one you want to spend more time with. But I have learned from what I call the anti-mentor, which is I've watched leaders who just seem to do it wrong. And they're
Yeah.
leader by title, not by action. And you're like, not going to do that. I see how did, or I feel how that, I'm like, not going to do that. Make sure that that is not in my repertoire. So don't invite it and then shut it down, right? Don't invite it and
Good.
then blow it
Good.
off, you know?
Yeah.
But return it and say, can I be genuine with you? Can I be frank with you on this? I'm really struggling with this, or I need this from you. And I keep going back to it. I'll even in performance evals, I've had people that are like, what, you're doing all this great, but your development area is, I want to hear more from you. When we're in meetings, I want to hear from you because I know you've got a lot to say. I know you're
Yeah.
thinking thoughts. Don't hold it back because we need it. And I have a leader I've been doing that for a few years with, and I just kept saying, we need it. And now I'm getting that. And I'm like, see? One of them, I'm like, she looked over at me after saying something in a meeting and she just saw me beaming. And she's like, I know. And I said, yeah, but you realize if you hadn't said that, we wouldn't know this. This is awesome. Um, but that listening has to be purposeful, because it can't just be your leadership, around you. You've got to cascade it out and you've got to teach it. We have a training that we do here within the organization that we contracted with culture partners called the Culture of Accountability. And myself and my chief operating officer are certified to provide that training. And it is about, one of the cores of it is about that feedback, giving feedback, accepting feedback, asking for feedback, and listening to it and using it. And it's great stuff. It's a language around which we can use, and it's stopping using the idea of like, when something doesn't go right, it's like, all right, who do we blame? Who do we throw under the bus for that one? It changes the conversation to the question to, all right, who's accountable for what and by when? And these are tangibles. And when you have wins together, and you will, when you attempt to do this, yeah, you'll have ones that crash. You just learn from it and move on. But when you have those wins together, you celebrate them. One of my early mentors told me this thing says, this is how you're going to have to lead. You like it or not. This is what you signed up for. The garbage rolls up, the blame rolls up, and the accolades roll down. You praise others. Now it will cascade when people get into a culture of praise, and be purposeful. Highlight those things. So we have a platform that we use. It's kind of like a social media platform within the organization where we can do, like we titled them shout outs and caught being awesome. And I said, look, when something's going on, right? We're a distributed workforce. We need to hear it and they need to know they matter. So we do these shout outs that everybody sees, and it's super cool. So that's the
Yeah.
tacticals is create those conversation opportunities, even if they're short and simple. And then the other thing is, remember they're people. Your people are people even when they're not here at work. Like what's going on in their life? I can't, I'm not going to probe and be overly, intrusive in your questions. But if somebody says, oh, you say, hey, what are you doing this weekend? They're like, oh, it's my kid's birthday. Oh, ask a couple, son or daughter, how old are they? Oh, that's super exciting. And then, come Monday or Tuesday when you see them again, ask how the party went. Pay
Right.
attention
Right.
and go, hey, how'd that go? Or note it, you're like, oh, wow, it rained on Saturday. I better ask, and he's like, hey, how'd that go? She says, oh, it was okay because we did one of those indoor doodad, things, and we had all the slides and all that stuff indoor, so the rain didn't even bother us. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's cool. You listened, right? I'm
Yeah.
somebody to you. And I think, recognizing that people bring everything about them. I can't fix what's going on in our life. That's what I'm talking about. But they bring everything about them. And I'm a huge fan. If you ever read the book, and I recommend it to everybody. It's not even designed to be a leadership book, but it's awesome. Called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Incredible book, very small, easy to read. Even for somebody like me with a learning disability, I bowled through that thing.
Can't lean
Man,
on that crutch forever,
nope, no, especially not with audiobooks. Greatest thing that ever happened.
Yeah, right, right, right.
But The Four Agreements is a simple book, and it structures kind of how you think. And one of the four agreements is do your best every day. Yesterday is best might be different than today's, right? Today I'm feeling maybe I'm feeling under. I got caught a cold, so my best today is not going to look like it was yesterday or the day before. But I'm going to give you all of me today, and then tomorrow I might be even better. But leave the day. Okay, I gave my best today. I know I did. Leave it all on the table, right? And then walk away from it. Yeah, it's not my best ever, but it was my best today. And then do it again. And then recognize that in your people. That's why you're having those conversations. You're getting to know them as people. Like that staff member of mine who was honest enough to, like, I couldn't believe she told me, like, yeah, this is my last day before maternity leave. And I'm like, I can tell. Wow, thank you. I mean, I felt honored. Like you could have done a whole lot of things with that day. You could have taken a PTO day. No, you came into the office to have lunch with a guy you've never met before. You've seen him on videos. And then you shared your story. Um, that's for me, the stories are the powerful part of keeping connected. So even in my role, I find I'm specific about the places and things that I do so that I can continue to be connected to those stories. One of our subsidiaries, we purchased an apartment building so that we could create an inclusive community. So we have market rate apartments for people, that are so neurotypical, just doing life, and then within that are people who are neurodiverse with a sliding scale for affordable housing, because we noticed like housing is just not affordable anymore. And when we find a problem, our DNA as a company is, well, let's get in there.
Yeah.
Purpose of telling that is we've now filled the building. It's fully occupied, and we're excited about that. And so I've now waited a little bit for people to get settled in their places, and not next week, the week after that, I'm scheduled to just go down and meet and hang out in their living room with two individuals that have moved into the building. One who is a longtime individual that we have supported needed to move. We had the opportunity, and then a new person to our organization who's also deaf was moving from an arena where there was no one who signed. And we have now surrounded him with a staff circle that everybody signs. And he's living in his own place. I want to go here. What's that like for you? How are you doing? Right? Because that's where I get my juice. I'm a people person. Secretly, well, it's not so much secret anymore. People know that I also love spreadsheets. It's kind of a weird thing. But I am a people person. But I do love my spreadsheets. So the tacticals are, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it takes a lot of purpose. You got to be purposeful about it. Don't manufacture it, right? There's a difference. People say, oh, I got to schedule it. Yeah, you do, but not in a way that says, okay, this is that time where I'm going to be listening to you. Tell me things. I mean, it's like, that's not, don't be manufactured. You got to be you. But you interact in that way that's purposeful. You get a chance to have a small, short conversation, do it. And be approachable. I do the proverbial my door is always open thing as much as I can, but I also do it digitally. Everybody knows in my email, I get emails from staff, and I'm like, hey, thank you for reaching out, right? And I respond. I have an admin, and I'll say, hey, this person sent me an email. Let's put something on the calendar as soon as you can, and set aside that time. But also people who are working here in the office, they just come pop in like, hey, there's supported individuals that we have that know me because of different arenas, and they just come popping into my office and sit down. I stop what I'm doing. What could be, there's nothing, unless the building's on fire, there can't be anything more important than I can't take 5 minutes. Right. So that would be number one. That was a long number one, but that would be number one is listen. Listen. And then invite, right? Invite the feedback so that you have something to listen to. And then when you get into that rhythm, then wrestle with them. When they tell you something, you say, okay, hold on. What about? Or I'm interested in that. Tell me more. Or, that's been tried. What do you see different? What did we miss? I mean, you start to, instead of just like I wanted to share that. No, get back here. This could be something. Let's talk about it. Or I had this great idea. Okay, cool. You know what? I'd be willing to get behind that if you put together a proposal. And I've had them do that. Okay, come back. Okay, here's my proposal. All right. We have new programs because of that. I mean, how awesome is that? And what you do when you do that is you create an environment where people go, okay, I'll take a risk. Like we had a program that was, we had a position that was completely funded by a grant. And she was a supervisor over a specific part of our employment program. I get an email from her one day. I would like to come and make a presentation to you and tell you what I've been doing for the last 6 months. First time in my life, I've been doing this for a long time, that someone said, I would like to come and present some stuff to you. I'm like, get it on the calendar. Get it on the calendar right away.
Yeah.
She comes in, we sit down near my conference table. She pops up her laptop, connects to it, and and her boss is sitting there too. Her boss came with her, her direct supervisor, one of my directors, and she's presenting, and I'm just sitting there. And I'm going, this is incredible. This is great. I had no idea we've done this well, right?
Right.
And she's like, yeah. And then this is the best part. Then she goes, but wait, I have my last slide. This is what I'm going to do next. And I looked at her director, and she's like, she just nods, like, I know. And I think oh yeah, when she was done, I said, this has been awesome. And I'm so grateful. I appreciate it. Would you be willing to present this to the board of directors? I want them to see what you've been doing. See, that's the thing. You've got to open up. It's not about, oh, I'm going to take this cool information and I'm going to tell the board what we're doing, so they're looking at me. I said, I'd like you to come and present this. And then when she's like, sure, a little bit like, whoa, but I'm like, don't worry. I will coach you. You'll be set and ready to go. Just do what you just did for me. It's going to be awesome. And so I did. I had set it up and I introduced her. I totally edified her in what she's been doing. And then she made this presentation, and my board members were all looking at me like, and I said to them, I know. And just so you realize that actually, since the time that she started in this program, she is now the manager over the entire program. And you can see why. She had already got
Right.
the promotion. And that's when you create that a kind of an environment, you're going to attract talent. And then that talent is going to say, inside that person, they're going to say, I want out. How do I get this out of me? And where's my path in this company?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I'm impressed with the idea that loyalty doesn't just retain the people, and especially the people that you want to have stick around, be those franchise players for you, but it seems to also develop them and help them develop into their own kind of leadership inside the organization. And so if I'm correct, the assumption is that, or the reality is that loyalty not only helps retention, but it also creates the leaders of the future. Is that right?
You nailed it. We do we call leadership luncheon twice a year. I bring all the supervisors and managers and directors to one place, which is kind of hard to do. So that's why I only get to do it to it. But this past year, I talked a little bit with them, and then I said, I want you to just stop for a second and look around the room. I said, these are the people that need you, and these are the people who you need. This is the future of this organization, not where I'm standing. I'm the now. The future of it is sitting at the tables with you. And we have incredible depth on the bench. And, they get a clap, and I'm like, yeah, but you're clapping for you because you are that. You just gotta go for it, right? And all of my almost all my senior leadership team has come up through this organization. I actually have some from outside, but that had actually worked for me at a different organization. So for me, they've come up through, just with the exception of my CFO, and because we didn't have that when we got here. So other than that, and he's incredible. My CFO is like, I love this guy. He just gets mission. He's one of the most mission-minded finance guys I've ever seen. In fact, he's in the right place when you begin to have conversations that involve money, and he goes, all right, I can build that plan, but I need to know how does that meet mission? And you tell him, well, it does that. Okay, I get that. All right, got it. Okay, give me 2 days. I'll have that plan for you. I mean, he's built out a plan for a couple of our programs. As soon as somebody was able to articulate how it's missional. And then I've had him tell me like something I was gonna like, I don't know, I think this isn't going. He's like, it's so missional though. Just give it a little bit more time. And I'm like, you're the finance guy, you know? But because it's an environment where he goes, I know you'll listen to me if I tell you what I'm thinking. And I'm like, yeah, of course I will, you know? So yeah, it's building your future, right? And your leaders will rise up. And then when you see that, you're nurturing that. Not everybody has to be you know, in a position that has a leadership title. Everybody's a leader in the environment they're in. Our DSPs are leaders in safety and opportunity and skill growth with the people we support. And then what's funny is every one of my DSPs will tell you this though. They'll say, yeah, but honestly, I learn more from the person I support than they ever learned from me. And I'm like, that's why you're here.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned the finance person, which brings up an important point to me, which is probably that the retention, the loyalty reduces turnover,
Yeah.
which would seem to translate into less personnel costs in terms of the hiring process and the downtime and the lag in metrics and performance and all of those things. So it would seem that it creates stronger mission outcomes. Is that the experience that you've had?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I did a bigger statistic just so it kind of hits hard when in a conversation, you know, in a conference I was presenting at, and it was like if you took an average of about $4,000 to bring a DSP from recruit to start, that's what it costs. And that's a low estimate, but say $4,000. And you talk about a turnover rate in the country of about 43%. And you talk about how many DSPs there are. It actually costs the system, this whole system of providing support, $2.6 billion in turnover.
Okay, so define DSP for those
Direct
that,
support professional, that's that frontline person providing the services to people, you know, in the
yep,
home or in the workplace. And that kind of turnover, that's what the system is absorbing that could have been going towards just providing services if we were more focused on that retention piece, which is what,
right.
you know, so you're absolutely right. It reduces the churn on the recruiting team. It reduces the costs to find people because that's the most expensive thing is finding new people, you know. So funny story. So a company I was at before, and you know, because I think one of the biggest ways of transmitting culture is to have all your training in-house, right? You bring your teams and if you need somebody certified for CPR, you get them certified, but they're your in-house trainer because they're infusing who Jay Nolan is or whoever, you know, ABC company is. It's your cultural, you know, infusion. And I was talking with my CFO there, and he looked at my numbers and he looked at my increase in training costs and he goes, what is this? Look at all this money. He says, I said, yeah. I said, we gotta train better. And I talked about some outcomes, this, that, and the other thing. He goes, yeah, but what if we spend all this money on training and they leave? And I said, what if we spend all this money, we don't spend all this money and they stay?
Yeah,
You
right,
know?
right. Good,
And
good, good, good.
he just looks at me and I said,
You were wrestling.
I was wrestling. Yeah. Because I'm like, answer if you can counter that one for me,
Yeah.
I could be wrong. So anyway, that's how that budget ended up, because he didn't have an answer for that one.
Yeah,
Following
you
year though,
don't because more than just the cost of doing business.
yeah,
That's how you do mission well, I suppose, and how you show people that they have value and that
and this is
you're
hard work, Chris. It's not easy to do what we do,
yeah.
and my
Good.
staff are incredible, and I am abundantly proud of them. And to do that, to provide them tools, and I get a little bit of joy, I get giddy sometimes with the feedback in the survey, and having put all those efforts and resources behind training in the survey. We right every year we hear back, trainings are great, we want more. And when you have it now, you're now shifted. Your whole mindset in a team is now shifted to get me more tools so I can be better for the person I'm supporting. I mean, that is the sweet spot to be. I will find it for you because you are now telling me how committed you are to the person that you're supporting, that you want, I need more training. because I want them to grow even more, and I'm only me, so give me some more. And I was like, wow, instead of the idea of like, good is good enough, it's like, no, 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 we got things to do.
Right, right. So good. Well, as we kind of think about how practically we can help other leaders,
Mhm.
and we approach the close of our conversation, I'm wondering if you can share a couple of things that you would recommend leaders out there listening today can start to do immediately to build stronger loyalty on their own teams.
I think probably the first thing to do is to self-reflect. Um, I know it's kind of funny. Like leaders are usually those folks that they always have the right thing to say, or they're always out in front, or they're loudest, or whatever. All the different things. It's like
Right.
first thing you need to be, you really really need to be is humble. You need to recognize it's a privilege. Yes, it's a difficult privilege, but it is a privilege, and that you're only here for a season. So be self-reflective, get to that humble place of going, what is it that I can bring to this today? Because I'm only going to have my today. And how am I going to set this organization up for the next person who's going to do that, right? Succession planning starts with day one, and it's a humble thing because you're like, this is my seat today. Yeah, it is. However, if you're really taking your role seriously, that you're here to serve, then you're also thinking about beyond you. So that's first. And then in that, you're like, well, what do I need to know then? And that's when you say, so next thing is you bring your team together and you go, team, first thing you need to know is I appreciate you. I value you. And maybe I say it all the time, but I'm saying it again. Or maybe you haven't said that. And you're like, look, if I haven't said it, I'm sorry. I think it a lot. I appreciate you. And what I want is for this, is be humble, be honest, for this to be a place where we feel safe to be honest with one another. In fact, when I first started here at J. Nolan, I brought the team together and I said, I need you guys to understand something because my predecessor led differently than I do. And what I said to him, I was like, if you think I have all the answers, we have just capped as good as this company's ever going to get. So I don't want you to think I think that.
Yeah.
And I think, creating conduits for communication, creating ways that you can reach all the way out, whatever all the way out is at your organization. If it's a smaller one, then that's easier, right? You right there and doing it. That's awesome. Um, but also, this is one I've had to recognize. And it's taken me a little bit, right? You're always learning. If you stop learning, you're in trouble. Um,
Yep.
is you cannot separate you from the role in this environment. When you're the CEO or the executive director or whatever it is, it's it's who you are for the people that work for. So when you show up in a situation, when you show up in a meeting or you show up, you're bringing that with you. So be prudent about where you put yourself. Don't put yourself
Hmm.
in meetings that you don't need to be in and change that dynamic because it will. And then people won't necessarily do the work they need to do to grow for themselves. They'll default to you're here. What went wrong? Or I got to be on my best. No, just be honest. But be honest with yourself that you know that and say, you know
Yeah.
what? Let me know if you need anything and not be there. Because it does change it. And that's for me a more recent realization of because I think I'm just a nice guy. I'm just showing up and I'm going to help. And they're like, no, it doesn't work that way. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Counterintuitive a little bit. Yeah.
It is. It is. Then when they do invite, like, hey, we really need you in this meeting, then you go and bring all that humble listening with you, but don't insert yourself if you don't
Mhm.
need to.
So last question, and maybe it's the same approach, maybe it's not, but if a leader is struggling with turnover right now, where do they begin? Where do you recommend they begin?
I guess for that one, my big recommendation is ask the people you're losing, right? Now, obviously, exit interviews are nice if you can get them, but ask the people who haven't left, why are they leaving? Why are you still here? Right? Get purposeful.
Right.
Either you might do the anonymous surveys that gets you some too, but then you got somebody that's been at your company for 15 years, go talk to that person. Say, what keeps you here? What is it about here that works? So, and then try to cascade that out. Try to figure out what worked and what, right? So, and that takes some humility. And I didn't invent that one. I mean, Hilton actually did that. So, there are big companies that have made the humble choices to listen, and it's made all the difference.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, Edward, this has been such a meaningful and practical conversation, and the connection between loyalty, leadership development, and mission impact is so clear. And you've given us a lot to think about and act on. And I just want to thank you for sharing your experience, your perspective, and your leadership with us today. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on Lead for Good. If this conversation resonated with you, be sure to share it with a colleague or a leader in your network. Definitely like and subscribe to the podcast. Check out our other 2 podcasts, Mastering Fundraising and The Nonprofit Edge. And just remember, like Edward is so capably doing, that it's important to lead for good. So we'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this most recent episode of Lead for Good. Our passion is helping nonprofit leaders reach their full potential as leaders, and we sincerely hope this episode has been edifying for you. Please subscribe to this podcast to not miss any of our Lead for Good conversations. We welcome your feedback, suggestions, and comments via email at hello@fulcrumleader.com. Lead for Good is a production of Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership. Please visit us on the web at www.fulcrumleader.com. Until next time, we wish you all the best and encourage you to always lead for good.